Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
Listeners of the Randomness of Nothing podcast, we always get guests on here who epitomize entrepreneurship, taking ownership of your life, your career, and the trajectory of where you want it to go. This person epitomizes it, and the accolades are quite stellar, to be quite honest with you. Global leader, 5-time best international selling author, Presidential Lifetime Achievement winner, CEO of Bradford Group, LaWanna Bradford. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Rashad. How's it going?
It's doing great. It's doing fantastic. And again, I very much am appreciative of you taking time out on my show. Can you give us some insight based on the numerous things you've accomplished? Because sometimes when people read a list of accomplishments, they forget there's a person behind it who put the work in to get to that, to do those things.
So what would you like me to? Where would you like me to start?
The humble beginnings. Where did it all kind of manifest in the beginning? I saw that obviously you're a child of individuals that were in the military, and that probably instilled a lot of level of discipline as you, I believe, went to the military yourself.
No, I wasn't, strategist. But I did work for the Department of Defense as a civilian.
Yes.
And so yes, I did start the disciplinary focus with my dad. I'm an Army brat.
Yes.
And my father, if you're familiar with the Buffalo Soldiers, he
Beautiful.
was one of the last remaining Buffalo Soldiers.
That's
and
amazing.
So just being around that history, because my dad was so much older than me, born in 1930, and understanding just the journey in life and in business and how you show up, and then your commitment to your word, and being a part of the solution rather than a part of the problem was very much instilled in me. And my values being my love for God, my family, and then ultimately my community. Yes. And everything that I do touches one of those lanes. Absolutely. In that order. And with my business, I got bit by the bug, Rashad. When I was in high school, Future Business Leaders of America, we were assigned to develop a business from end to end. And I thought, wow, this seems pretty cool. And so my very first quote unquote entrepreneurial experience, I was in college, and you're not going to believe what I sold.
I'd love to hear it.
Cutco knives.
Oh my God. But of course, when they advertise, you got a salary, but it's really like get a list of your friends and everything like that. And you get like the suit and then, I mean, who hasn't been caught up in that little scheme, right?
Right. But because I did love the whole concept of entrepreneurship, and I figured if I can go door to door and sell knives, I can probably sell anything.
Beautiful. So it's amazing. And so this is for people who are unfamiliar with what sales were like. It wasn't just an influencer on the internet that was making a quick flash commercial. It was personal relationships. It was having to go door to door, right? That did exist for people who are kind of, coming up and not aware of those things. I have to kind of tell my daughters about the VHS tapes that, Dad had as a kid.
Right. And imagine how frightening that is. You're knocking on the door, someone lets you in the house, and you're pulling out knives.
That's a high level of trust. Maybe the dress is maybe somebody dressed up disarmed people a little bit, right? As opposed to somebody in some jogging pants and things like that. Oh my goodness, what a terrifying experience! But that was the beginning of it, right? And I'm sure it made you overcome fear as well too.
It did, because I'm pretty much an introvert. I'm not shy, so there's a difference. Yeah. And I also learned the importance of listening, right? So really perfecting my art of listening skills. But then where I was weak is, how do you really work a room? And so then I learned by being around mentors, and my dad was one of those, is if you are interested in people,
absolutely,
then you become interesting.
It's amazing how that works, isn't it?
Yes.
It's funny because talking it really is a skill and people skills. And it's funny because we're actually very similar. Like I'm a social loner, right? I talk pretty well when I'm in a room, but I don't necessarily hang out with a lot of people, right? So it's kind of weird. It's like a weird dynamic. I'm like,
Yes.
I kind of like that quiet time just to myself, right? So the show, and I was a terrible networker in college, like terrible, awful. So the show is almost my way of kind of making up for that lost time by saying, okay, well, now I need to network in my little space and bubble. Now, as you embark on your entrepreneurial career and you realize that everything's in sales, sales can sometimes be a dirty word, right? Oh, you're a salesperson. But it's really the relationship business, right? Sales is really the relationship business. How do you bridge the gap to make somebody good at sales without being a salesperson, so to speak?
I think it's helping them to understand that when you are presenting yourself to the world, that forward facing, you are in fact selling, right? You're selling your thoughts, your visions, your ideas in life. And through that, that's bridging the connections. Mm-hmm. So if you're able to see, how can I take this idea, this concept here, understand what a person has a need for over here, and create a bridge, right, then that's when magic happens. But if you don't even take the time to understand if there's even a problem that you may be able to solve, right, that's when it can feel, like you said, a little salesy.
Right, when you just read off the PDF file or the PowerPoint presentation. So now we'll get into the very interesting aspects of you building your own business, you actually onboarding customers and clients worldwide, your international speaking career, and finally these presidential lifetime achievements. And oh, by the way, you're also in commercial and investment mortgage brokerage as well too. So there's a lot to encompass. I don't want to jump all around the place, so I guess we'll just focus on the first one, which is you're the CEO of the Bradford Group, correct?
Yes. So we are a business management consulting company, and our primary clients have been your major government agencies, and then we've partnered with your large consulting firms. So whether it's Deloitte or SRA, we've been the subs for those contracts. And the other thing that we're doing now is I've been blessed to have all of this experience, both domestically and globally, but realizing the heartbeat and the pulse of our economy, that's a small business owner.
Absolutely.
They can't afford, a Deloitte and Accenture to come in. They don't have $100,000 to throw in for a strategy session. Right. But I've had that experience, and I thought, well, let me tailor it where I'm basically teaching people how to fish, how to begin to think not as a CEO of their company, looking above and on it rather than so entrenched in it that you're unable to see the opportunities that are there as well as the risk. Right. So walking the small business owner through that journey is now my passion. So we're still doing our bread and butter, but it's like, okay, how do we really reach out both domestically and internationally in those lanes and help businesses maximize their opportunity to survive, because it's rough out there.
Yeah, and I wanted to kind of segue into that because this is really kind of a two-step question. The first one is obviously branching into international markets, bridging language barriers. Clearly, technology has allowed Zoom calls and other things that maybe weren't available even really pre-COVID in some aspects of it, because people didn't really embrace it as much as they did now when things had to pivot. So, but when it comes to currencies, when it comes to language barriers, when it comes to international markets, laws, and economies, what exactly is the strategy of your team to deploy those very different nuances where maybe certain things are applicable in North America and the United States that may not be applicable in Europe and Asia?
I'm going to focus on like just one basic thing, and that's understanding culture.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So the do's and don'ts over here, or things that are acceptable here, can be very offensive in another country.
Understood.
So really, if you're saying I want to go to, and I'll give you an example. My niece currently is on a study abroad program in Ghana. Amazing. And she was concerned because she has individuals that are helping their medical team with making sure their laundry is done. So this is just something basic. And she said, Auntie Wanda, what do I do? Because they're going to do all of our laundry, but they won't do our undergarments because that's not appropriate in that country.
Right.
And I said, well, will you have access to any laundry facilities? She said, no. I said, well, then you bring enough change.
Right.
So again, I mean, it's kind of comical,
but it's something. It's a big deal.
Yeah, you take your time and knowing, again, there's so much information out there, and then have the conversations with what their expectations are. Often we come in and do things the American way, right? We sit down, handshake, let's get right to business. Not in most countries. It's like, no, let's sit down, let's eat, let's get to know you. And we just want to say, okay, we're looking at our watch, and they're like, what are you talking about? We've got, 3 hours for dinner here.
It could something be so simple as maybe you sat down first and didn't even think that it's not appropriate for you to sit down first. It's appropriate for somebody in the room to do the first seating down. And but in your mind, you did nothing wrong. And that could be the beginning of a very hard hole to dig yourself out of if you didn't do your homework.
Exactly. And when I was working with the Department of Defense, I was a statistician.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and so one of my territories was Korea. And so I was over there with my team, but I was the only female on the team. Well, back then, and probably still is, was very much a male-dominated society in the workplace. But I was head of the team. And as I'm doing my presentation, I was wondering, okay, why does it seem like people aren't really listening? It wasn't that they were having sidebar conversations. I didn't feel energetically that they were leaning into me.
Yeah.
And so afterwards, I talked to our U.S. liaison, and they said, because you shouldn't have been the one to present that. And I said, and I got offended. I'm like, wait a minute, this is my project. I'm the lead on the team. They said, they're not ready for that.
Oh,
so it doesn't matter if you're the lead on the team. What's the goal? Is the goal your ego, or is the goal to get the job done?
That's a tough one. I'm not gonna lie. That's a tough one.
That was a tough one. And this is several decades ago, but it was
right.
It was something I had to sit in. And so the next day we had our second meeting.
Yeah.
I introduced the person. I'm still at the table having the conversation, but I didn't position myself as, I'm head and shoulders above everyone here in the room.
Right.
And it went over a lot differently. So sometimes we have to swallow our ego and say, okay, what's the bottom line? Why are we here? And get it done.
Right. And the even more complicated is obviously in the U.S. that's grounds for some sort of legal remedy of some sort. But it depends on the country you're in. I can't speak on Korea. So clearly, you can much more than I can. But you have to navigate that mindset, in the back of your mind as well too. Like, wait a minute, where's my attorney at? But I'm just but I'm glad things work themselves out, and to have that foresight to be able to close the deal on behalf of your company and organization and the mission that you were looking to accomplish, it speaks volumes of you, right?
Thank you.
Absolutely. So that's a great example, because I was curious about that. Now, some of your books, what are some of the books that you have written?
I've written several collaborative books. So those are anthologies where I and other authors have come together for a particular theme. And most of my contributions have all been in the lane of strategy and performance, because that's my love. Yeah. Last year was the very first time that I published my own book. Mm-hmm. I actually have a copy here, and it's called I Pledge Allegiance, A Journey Through the Words That Shaped a Nation, which is kind
beautiful.
Of perfect timing now since we're celebrating our 250th year.
Absolutely.
And
that is wonderful.
Not only did we receive the best Amazon bestseller in ethnic and history relations, but we also received the International Impact Book Award for it as well. And may I tell you just a little bit about why I wrote it?
That's why the show is for.
Well, it was nothing ever that was on my radar screen. Mm-hmm. But when I think that's the one wonderful thing about life, Rashad, is something will happen and it'll spark an idea.
Right.
And it was actually the 69th day of our new administration here in the United States. And I was watching something on the news, and it just really caused my blood to boil. And so I just started journaling and just how I was feeling and just thinking about the nation, the history of our nation. But after about 3 weeks, I thought, wow, LaWanna, you had a lot of pent up frustrations here.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I think I have the making of a book.
Beautiful.
And I started thinking about the promise of this nation, the ideals of this nation. And then I thought about the pledge, something that, we grew up saying over and over again, hundreds of times.
Right.
But did we ever really understand what it was and why we were saying it?
Right.
And when I understood why it even came about, I was thinking this was something from 1776. It was not. 1842. Yeah. And it was done because they were commissioned to kind of unite America, right?
Correct.
Even though they knew there's different nations, let's unite it. And before it wasn't our flag, it wasn't the flag, it was our flag. So they, at the point in time, they were celebrating all nations. And then it changed to, nope, it's going to be one flag, the United States flag.
Right.
And then under one nation under God, the under God piece wasn't added until the Cold War, because we wanted to separate ourselves from communism.
See, even I didn't know that, but a lot of people also don't know there's a third verse in there,
Yes.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
So just, and so the book is one it's not one that you're going to read and get the same thing that I did, that I got from it, from writing it, or anyone else.
Correct.
You're going to look at it from your own lens, your own lived experiences. And then I ask questions at the end of each chapter.
Beautiful.
For you to just decide, okay, how does this really relate to me? It's not a political book, but it just helps us to dig deep into what we say our value systems are. And then at the end, where do you really stand? And for me, I ended the book saying, in all of this, in all of our ugliness and triumphs and trials, I still pledge allegiance.
Absolutely. And, it's a testament to your patriotism and, your father, who clearly grew up in some very, very challenging times and was still willing to give back to the country that he was born into, right? And so to be a soldier at a time when a country wasn't always loyal to you is a testament to the character that's been passed down to you, right? And so to always take that bigger picture approach, it shows a testament to your character. And being frustrated and being, caught up, you use the proper channel for it. And that's why you have the success that you have. It didn't get self-destructive. It didn't get, I'm going to make an Instagram video and, vent, people get caught up in the moment, right? And it's like, no, that's, and one thing I've always tried to do, and I want to say 99.9% of the time, I can even say maybe 100, I don't argue with strangers on the internet. I have absolutely no, it doesn't do anything for me. I'd much rather have conversations like this. Your opinion is your opinion, and you're not exactly going to have somebody have that road to Damascus kind of moment when you're arguing with them. It's just not going to happen. So I'm really grateful that you had that book, and I'm looking forward to being able to read a copy of it.
Thank you.
So
I'll have to get your information and I'll send you one.
Absolutely. I'm very appreciative of that. Looking forward to it. So you're doing all of these things with the Department of Defense, and you have your international group. Where did the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award weed its way into this? Was it just because of what you were? I'll let you tell that, because I really don't know how to navigate that kind of question.
Yeah, thank you. That has been, over all my years of experience and accolades and awards and stuff. That's the pinnacle. And I got it for over 4,000 volunteer hours given back to women. Amazing. And helping women empowerment in the lanes of entrepreneurship, and just, recognized for that work. And I still do the work. It was actually born out of the work I was doing during the pandemic. Women were shut in. Everyone was shut in. Yeah. But I started paying attention to people who were showing up in a unique and different way.
Beautiful.
On social media, I started a community called Celebrate You, Embracing Total Wellness. Started recognizing women, coaching women, and someone saw it, recognized it, submitted it up the chain, and
wow, that's amazing.
I'm simplifying it, but yeah, that's
before we simplify that also took years and years of hard work and doing those, that. And what's crazy is, to circle back to that moment in Korea, maybe that doesn't happen if you took that the wrong way, right? If you would have not. So everything's a full circle moment. That one moment where you had that recognition led to being that Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. It's not often I get a chance to interview people who do that. And I'm stunned that I read that. I'm like, no way, right? And I'm like, this is amazing. So let's talk in the specifics of you onboarding clients in the strategy sessions, because I think this is very important, because the opportunity for entrepreneurism is at its highest with the digital era, low barrier to entries, but obviously failure and immediate gratification can sometimes fool people, because it is a very, very high level of hard work. So what is your onboarding and strategy sessions for those small, medium-sized businesses that don't have the Deloitte budgets?
Well, the first thing is, and I want to qualify, I don't work with every small business owner. So I'm not, even though I used to work with startups, that's not where I focus on. I'm looking at people that have been in for at least 5+ years.
Got it.
Why that is because you pretty much understand the business lane that you're in. You may have some idea of what's happening competitively, your pricing structure, your product mix, and then the who is your ideal client. So if you're able to have comfortable conversations around that, that's what we unpackage. And I designed a framework, Rashad, that actually sits on strategic planning, because in it's most simplest of explanation, strategy is, this is where I am, this is where I'm going, I throw something to the wall and hopefully it gets me there. That's great and wonderful. So that's why many people keep spinning and spinning and spinning, including big business.
Right.
And they spend all this time, great plans, and they don't execute.
The meeting after the meeting.
Meeting after the meeting, right. But I realized, because we are now, things are we're changing so fast. If you look at each phase of business, from industrial, now we're in, the digital, now we're in AI. Right. It gets shorter and shorter and shorter. So how do you navigate rapid change? How do you navigate this environment of disruption? Because that's what we're in. It's not going away. Right. And I said, well, it's really creating this ecosystem of understanding. And I call it it's the R3 system: Refocus, Reframe, and Reconnect.
Yes. And
very briefly, Refocus has nothing to do with mindset. And most people instantly go there. Mindset's actually the last thing. And what I realize is, first you have to be self-aware and then situationally aware. Those are the pieces of the puzzle. Once you have all of those together, how are they fitting together? Or maybe they're not for some reason. That means something's missing, that you may have a blind spot. You just didn't realize it.
Absolutely.
From there, once you have all the pieces, then, and I love what Martin Luther King Jr. said years ago, was that he challenged a group of youth. He said, what is your life's blueprint? And you are the architect of your life. Yes. And so that's the reframing, realizing that you have your own gifts, talents, visions, insights, resources, and tools that sit in this ecosystem of life of yours. How do you redesign whatever it is that you want to do? So designing the lane that you're in, the people who are in it, the pricing that's in it. And if you see someone in it that you don't like, then as Dr. George Fraser says, you bless and release them. They don't need to stay in it, right? It's your playing field. So you decide the rules of the game.
Beautiful.
Once you do that, the last part is the reconnect. And that for me was the hardest part, because that's the mindset. That's the belief. That's getting rid of all the bubble talk, the stinking thinking, and getting into not only a belief system that you can do it, but committing to do it. Because I can believe all day long and have intention.
Absolutely.
But then intention is overridden often by excuses. But when you commit it, it's like, I feel the fear, I'm going to do it anyway.
And it's funny because, you can confuse a habit for hard work, right? And so it's, and it's almost like you want to lose weight. And well, that's great. And believe me, I've tried to cheat the system. It doesn't work. And this is me. I'm not talking about anybody else. So if you don't change the fridge, there is absolutely nothing that you're going to be able to do to actually lose the weight and get to where you want to be. Because you can go to the gym, and that's part of the autopilot. Well, I have a schedule to go to the gym. But the back end of it, the hard work where you're by yourself and the fridge is staring you in the face, to your point, that's that habit. that, I have to commit that it's going to be boiled eggs and chicken and not potato chips and ice cream. Right. And it's really what it boils down to. Right. And so having that discipline and having that commitment to the vision that you want to execute. I think sometimes, particularly with social media, people get caught up in the very flashy things that they see in front of their computer screen or their tablet. But at its core base, everything is still the hard work that has to be put into it.
Yeah, I love that. And when you think about, we're now in the renaissance of Michael Jackson, right? And so many are talking about like what made him this phenomenon. Yes. Or even Prince and Michael Jordan. I mean, people with, right? It's the discipline. I mean, their work ethic was crazy.
Off the charts. The charts. It's absolutely, and to your point, they will jettison people very quickly who cannot maintain that level of commitment with them, right?
Exactly.
And there's a reason why, unfortunately, and you don't have to be as talented, but the work ethic still has to be there. If you can't jump to the heights of, there's certain things you can't do. But
right.
So there's a reason why I'm behind a desk and I never jumped and did that. So I wanted to talk briefly too, because you're also a speaker. You also have had an opportunity to host shows and have your own podcast. So can we get into your media career a little bit too? Because I certainly don't want to ignore that very prominent space that you're in.
Sure. Well, getting introduced to the media space and in my platforms, I still have 3. One's The Power of the Pen that deals with books and authors and resources for authors. The other is Choose the Challenge. That is pushing the envelope of anything, systems, institutions, mindsets, keeping people playing small. And then the third is Business and Financial Raw Talk. So looking for those innovators and leaders and having those critical conversations around business and finance. How they all came about, again, not something I had planned on. I wasn't saying, I want to have a podcast.
Yeah.
It was in 2019 during Women's History Month. The international theme was Choose the Challenge. And I said, I'd like to be a part of this. And I was doing some lives on Facebook. And I thought I heard God tell me, well, yeah, go ahead and do it, but interview 5 women. I totally missed the rest of the story. He said he wanted me to interview 21 women from 5 nations. Okay. So we're already in March. And I'm like, how do I do that? But I did. I ended up interviewing women from the US, UK, Canada, Uganda, and Jamaica.
That's amazing.
And it was the centennial anniversary of women's right to vote in the U.S. Mm-hmm. So I took the voice of the woman and the power of our voice equals the vote and translated it to conversations of women in these other countries. What do you feel restricted in your voice? How expressive can you be? The impact that you're making. Mm-hmm. Well, a streaming network saw this on Facebook and they said, do you mind if we air this on our network? Like, yeah, sure, whatever. I didn't care. They came back and they said they got higher viewership than they expected.
That's amazing.
And they said, what about doing your own show? I said, and do what? They said, this kind of stuff. I'm like, okay. So the Choose the Challenge show is my signature event. I got, kind of baptized by fire in it. I've become an active student of the craft, learning, not only giving interviews, but being like you, being interviewed. And I enjoyed it. I guess it was a hidden talent, a gift I didn't know I had. And I grow every day, every interview. I'm learning from people. And it's just a way now that I connect the world to brilliant minds.
And more importantly, I think people need that. In addition to how it happened organically for you, it was just a natural progression from what you were already doing. In all honesty, it wasn't really any different than those closed, door room sessions you were having with clients. It just was broadcast to a bigger audience. That's the way I look at it from the perspective of. So you're already doing that, but that's obviously the condensed version. It obviously took, again, a lot of hard work to get to that point, but I'm glad that you're there and I'm sure you'll continue to be as successful as you are. I'm very conscious of your time, and I know that there's a lot that got condensed in this interview, but where can people find you and all the things that you've done, and even if they want to hire you as a speaker, if they hear this episode?
Yeah, I'd say the best place is my website by my name, LaWannaBradford.com. Mm-hmm. And you can find me on all things social media, LaWanna Bradford. I'm easy to find. I'm Googleable. You can verify everything we've talked about here. Yeah. And
I didn't see too many other LaWanna Bradfords, so I was like, okay, I felt like when I started doing additional research, I was like, this might be the only one.
Yeah, so I would love to connect with your audience and just make beautiful music together, because it really takes the collective, I think, to move the needle and create effective and long sustainable change that we want to see in the world.
Without question, and it certainly helps my mind to be able to, if I hadn't started the show, I never would have been able to talk to a person like yourself. So I'm very grateful that you took time out of your schedule and something resonated with your team. And when you listened, that you were still saying, okay, I'll give this a thumbs up, because I understand, and to your point, you're selective, and rightfully so. So for that, I'm eternally grateful that you took time out of your schedule to be on my podcast.
Thank you so much, Rashad. You're doing some great things. And now your podcast is one that I have saved, so I'll be following you.
Yeah.
This is good.
Now I've set expectations, and now I can't blow it. So thank you for the bar that you set now. Very, very much appreciative for the kind words. And like I said, I can't thank enough for all the accolades and the challenges you've overcome, and the inspiration and the voice that you've amplified, and the people that you've touched. So thank you, LaWanna Bradford.
Thank you again. And can I just say one thing to your audience?
Absolutely.
I just want you all to remember, if anything that I said resonated with you, even made you laugh, just remember, in life and in business, when your vision intersects with opportunity, success is inevitable. Thank you again, Rashad.
Thank you.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.